Hi, I'm going to explain the proper way to use a drill bit. Most people make two mistakes when they're using a drill. They run the drill too fast and they don't apply enough downward force on the drill bit. I'm going to start off with a very small drill bit and a piece of 3/16 inch plate. Most of you guys are using variable speed drills. And for most holes that you drill, it should be on speed number 1. Speed number 2 is only for the very small drill bits. Speed number 1 is certainly for use when you're using a stepper bit or anything bigger than about 1/4 of an inch. You should always be on number 1. Otherwise, the bit spins too fast, it gets too hot. When it gets hot, it ruins the drill bit, then you can't drill holes. When you do encounter a drill bit that's dull and won't drill holes anymore, don't hang on to it. Don't put it back in your toolbox. Take it back to the tool room and exchange it for another drill bit. We don't want you wasting time trying to drill holes with a dull drill bit. Take it to the tool room and get a new bit. Okay, let me talk to you a little bit about cutting oil, the oil that you use to lubricate the drill bits. I'm doing this from my house, and this is all I have is this little lightweight machine oil. But it will work as a cutting oil. You can use this when you're drilling. The cutting oil doesn't lubricate the bit so much as it cools the bit. You don't want the bit to overheat, because if the bit overheats, it softens the drill bit and then it ruins it. You really only need cutting oil if the bit is starting to get hot. When you're drilling through something like aluminum, like this plate right here, this aluminum plate, you really don't even need any type of cutting oil. If you're drilling through steel and you're using some small bits like this, you really don't need cutting oil. You need the cutting oil when you start getting to the bigger bits. And again, like I said, if you put oil on the bit and the oil's smoking, that means everything's hot, and you either need to push harder on that bit or make sure you're using lubricant. The reason why you want to push hard on that bit is as you're pushing down on it, you're removing the material that was previously getting hot. So the part of the metal that's getting hot, you're now taking away as chips. So as the drill bit comes around to take the next pass, it's cutting a cooler piece of metal, and it keeps everything from getting so hot. That's why it's so important when you're drilling, make sure you push down hard. And the harder the material that you're drilling, the harder you need to push down. When you're drilling through aluminum, you'll notice that you don't need to push quite as hard, but you should always get those large chips. Okay, let me show you how to drill a pattern of 4 holes that are properly squared to this piece of material. So I have a piece of backplane material here, and I'm going to drill 4 holes in a 3" by 3" pattern, 1 inch away from this edge right here. So to begin with, I'm going to mark off my 3 inches this direction, and I'm using a Sharpie just so you can see on the material what I'm doing. So I've got that there. I've got another mark there. So that's 3 inches. Another trick you can do is you can take your tape measure like this, where you can get away from the tip where it's hard to read it, and you can go, right now I'm reading the 3 and the 6, which is 3 inches apart. And I can see that my marks are perfect. Okay? Everybody should have one of these. This is a square. There we go. Everybody should have one of these. This is a square. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do is mark my marks in this direction. I'm going to line this hole up with this hole. So make sure you're firm up against the edge of your material right here. Let me extend this just a little bit. Okay. So again, make sure you're tied up against your material here. Make sure you're tied up against your material here, and then I'm going to mark a line just like that. See that? I went right through there. Same thing here. Here we go. I've gone right through those two marks. And now I need to get the dimensions this way, and I'm going to use this tool here, and as you can see, it has your marks on it. So I need a hole that is 1 inch away from the edge. So I'm going to take this and move it down to 1 inch, and I'm going to lock it down. Hold it up against the edge here. Actually, because this Sharpie is so fat, I'm going to reduce this to just less than 1. I'm going to reduce this to just less than 1 because this Sharpie is so fat. There and there. So now these are exactly 1 inch from the edge. Now I need to get the two holes that are down here that's 3 inches from here, which is 4 inches from the edge. So I'm going to set this to 4 inches. There's the 4 inch. But remember, I'm using a Sharpie just so you can see, so I'm going to move it just a little bit less than 4 inches. Again, I'm going to hold it on firmly here, holding it firmly here. Put a mark across there. And a mark across there. Now I have 4 perfectly spaced marks. I can center punch them. I have the old-fashioned type of center punch where I have to use a hammer, but it works. Okay, now you're ready to drill those holes. You should always start off with a center punch in your material, which I've done. I've already made my center punch right here. The center punch keeps the drill bit from wandering when you're first starting. I'm going to start off by applying a small amount of lubricant. See these nice big curls we have coming off? That's what you're looking for. You want big chips, you want big curls. If it's coming off like a powdery form, you're not pushing hard enough and you're spinning a bit too fast. I'm not even pulling the trigger all the way. I'm spinning the bit slowly. There we go. That's it. If I want to make a large hole, now I have a much larger bit, I'm still going to spin the drill very slowly, and you should always start off with a pilot hole, which I'll use the previous hole that I've just drilled as my pilot hole. I can use a little bit of lubricant, but if you drill properly, you really don't even need the lubricant. I had the drill on the number 2 speed. I need the drill on the number 1 speed, so I have the torque. Look at the nice big chips. Once again, the big chips are coming off. That's what we're looking for, is the big chips. If you drill properly and get big chips, your tip doesn't get hot. The drill bit doesn't get hot. If your lubricant is smoking, if you're getting smoke because you're coming off of this drill bit, you're spinning the bit too fast. You need to slow down and push harder. And again, just before it breaks through, I let off the pressure a little bit. See how easy that was to drill through there? I've got nice big chips. and my drill bit isn't even hot. Look, it's not even hot because I was drilling slowly and pushing hard. Just so that you understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to show you the wrong way to drill a hole. And this is what I see a lot of people do. They spin the drill way too fast and they don't apply enough pressure. And watch how hot this bit gets. This is, I'm going to ruin this bit by doing this. But this is what I typically see people do. Okay, see how fine, see how light those chips are? And do you see the smoke coming off of it already? And I've barely started drilling. The smoke is because it's burning the oil. That's how hot this tip is getting. Hear that squeaking? If it's squeaking, you're doing the wrong thing. It should never squeak like that. See how fine that powder is? And see, I've barely drilled it. You saw how quickly this hole went through. I've barely made any progress on this one. You've got to slow that bit down and apply a lot of pressure. Okay, here's another mistake I see people make. Let's say, for example, I want to put this bolt with nut washers and lock washers through this piece of material right here. Okay, so I mark my hole, I mark where I'm going to drill it, and I center punch it. And I could actually drill through with this larger bit without a pilot hole. This is aluminum that I'm drilling through, and I don't really need the pilot hole. However, it's hard to get that drill bit to line up on that center punch mark with this big bit. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pilot hole first and drill the hole. And again, just like with the steel that I showed you earlier, I'm going to push down and spin the bit a little slower. Look, see those nice big curls that came off there? Did you see how fast I went through there? Nice big curls. I've got a little booger that's sticking off of that. Okay. Now I'm going to take my larger bit. And again, I'm probably not even going to push down as hard as I was because the aluminum is so soft. But again, see those curls? See those nice big curls coming off of there? That's what you're looking for. There we go. Okay, now here's where we find out the mistake that I made. And again, I see people do this frequently. They don't even bother to look at the other side before they drill it. Look, I don't even have room for this washer. Here's the mistake people make. I put my bolt through, and they don't even have room on the other side for the washer. I should have looked at the other side and noticed that I had this flange on here so I could then move this hole over a little bit. But I've drilled this hole and now I don't have room to put my washer on there. Before you drill a hole, know what's on the other side. Okay, I want to show you another thing you can do. I've just drilled these two holes through this piece of aluminum, and on the other side, if you can see it, you see how this rough hole is here, these burrs are here. I want to show you a little trick that you can do to clean up those rough holes. You can do this one of two ways. I'm going to show you first with the proper tool. This is a chamfer drill bit that you can use to clean up those holes. And if you need one of these, we can get one for you. But I can just lightly touch this hole and it'll put a little bit of a bevel on it. I'll go ahead and do this other one. Just touch it lightly, and it just cleans up the edge of the hole, and it puts a little bit of a bevel on it. And it makes for a nice looking hole. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it makes for a nice looking hole. If you don't have that bit, but you do want to do something like that, you can get a larger drill bit. That's about a 3/8 hole that I drill, and I now have a 1/2 inch drill bit. Pretty good sized drill bit. And I can do the same thing. Now I've flipped it over. These have not been done yet. I can take this larger bit, just lightly clean it up a little bit. Didn't take much, because that's soft aluminum. It didn't take much, but it put a little bit of a bevel on that hole, as you can see. Another thing that I see people do is they will drill a hole, and they'll take the drill and they'll do one of these numbers with the drill running. And I'm not really sure why people do it, but it's the wrong thing to do. If you're trying to make the hole bigger, use a bigger drill bit. Do not do this. Another trick for cleaning up the holes is when you're using a stepper bit, you can go down to the next step and just touch the surface, and it will put a little bit of a bevel on it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this hole. Okay. And I can go down just a little bit further till the next step starts touching it. That concludes my session on the proper method for drilling. I hope you learned something out of this. If you have any questions, please go to your supervisor and ask for some help.